Welcome, everyone. Before we begin, let me invite you to take your cell phones out and to turn them off or to set them to silent. Thank you very much for doing that. Let's begin. We've gathered here to celebrate the life of David Balon. We come together in our grief, acknowledging our human loss. It is in this moment of sorrow that we seek to find a measure of comfort as we reflect on David's life and our connection to him and our connection to his family. Your presence today is a gift. I want to thank you for coming today and being with the family in this difficult moment of grief. I want to invite you to care for each other, to lean on each other. In this way, we can all experience the giving and the receiving of love together. Let me open with a short prayer. Please pray with me. Father, whose love never fails, and who can turn the shadow of death into daybreak, help us in this time of grief. Remind us that you care not only for us, but for those whom we love, for David, for his family, for his friends. And so as we gather today, be with us. Amen. We begin with two readings. I'd like to invite Brant and Parker to come forward. They are going to read from Ecclesiastes and the Gospel of John. Please come.
Ecclesiastes 3. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. He has made everything sustainable for its time.
John 14, phrase 1-3. Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, I would have told you that I am going there to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you will always be where I am.
Thank you, gentlemen, for those readings in memory of your grandfather. I'd like to invite David's daughter to come. Please come and share with us a poem that you've written.
This is for you, Dad. Dad, how do I start with so much love in my heart? Where did the time go? This all feels like a bad dream. How did this happen? What is it supposed to mean? You rolled with the punches so many times. Never thought this day would happen, and you would always be mine. I've watched you since I was born, showing me to figure life out. We will need your guidance, Dad, from heaven up above. Not sure how we're going to do this, but we'll have to figure it out. Your family is strong, and we've promised to take care of Mom. You have lived an incredible life. That's what people admired about you. Life has a lot of meaning, only granted to a few. You've shown us all what it takes to create a beautiful life, roll with the punches, and never give up the fight. You taught each one of us there's nothing we can't do. Just set your mind to it, and it will come true. Determination to set the goals, ride the highs, and get through the lows. And in the end, you're right where you need to go. It's never the right time to say goodbye. I will miss you, Dad, and here is why. You taught me so much to show no fear, to always have fun and face the day with cheer. You were always so able, so fast, and so strong. In your little girl's eyes, you could do no wrong. You would always listen, and you never pried. You were the arms around me when I cried. You never looked for praises, and you were never one to boast. You were always there for the ones you loved the most. I hope you can hear me, so I can let you know now that you were and will forever be my superhero. I love you, Dad, more than words can say. It's your time now to rest in God's place. There will not be a day I won't think of you. This isn't goodbye. It's I will see you soon.
Thank you for that. That was a wonderful, wonderful, beautiful tribute to your father. Thank you for that. We're going to move into a time of memory. It is my hope that each of you can find a connection to David whether big or small in your life, that you might be able to hold on to that connection and the ways in which your lives were guided and shaped by his life, that those might continue. And so we move into a time of memory. We begin with the eulogy, which will be delivered by David Platt. David could not be with us today in person, but he has created a video tribute for us to watch. So I invite you to sit back and to watch this video tribute from David Platt, a good friend.
Good afternoon, everyone, and hello. My name is David Platt, and I am truly honored and privileged to be able to speak today on behalf of my great friend, Dave Balon. Mr. Balon and I first met on the May-long weekend of 2006 when I purchased a cabin right next door to him at his beloved Nice Beach on Emma Lake. I was pretty nervous for how things were going to go for me. I was buying from his very good friend Darren Gunn, who was just the perfect neighbor in every way. And he also happened to be a non-drinker and therefore not much of a partier. I had previously learned that Dave was a 64-year-old retired school teacher. And he was also the unofficial godfather and rule setter for our bay. I figured my style, being a little more on the rowdy side, and his were on a collision course, and I sincerely doubted I'd even last the summer. I remember it very distinctly. It was the very first Saturday afternoon, and we were putting in our collective docs, and I figure I'm in trouble as I get summoned to his deck. I couldn't even imagine what I've done wrong already, but I get this, "De Platt, I need to speak to you right now." Somewhat dreadingly, and fully feeling like the about-to-be chastised school student, I nervously stepped on his deck. "Yes, Mr. Balon?" And so he starts. "De Platt, there are a couple rules that you need to be aware of around here. We work very hard, and we work on things together. But at 4 o'clock, we stop working, and then we have some drinks. So you sit down right now, and what can I get for you?" And that was my first real introduction to both the person that would become so influential in my life, and of course, the tradition of 4 o'clock drinks on the Balon deck. Let me begin by acknowledging the unorthodox delivery of my virtual words today. As a simple explanation, I will tell you I'm out of the country on travel. A fair question might be, what kind of travel is so big of a deal that it could keep me away from something as important as this day? Well, to answer that question, you need to understand the makeup of the man that we are here to respect today. Dave Balon taught me a ton about how to live my life, and with an absolute guiding principle around family first. You see, today, I am going on a Disney cruise with my wife, 2 of my daughters, and my 3 grandchildren. A first for all of us, and in the planning stages for over a year. To put a little context to the magnitude of this trip through the eyes of a 7-year-old, we overheard grandson Jake talking to grandson Oakley last week. "Oaks," he says, "I'm telling you, this is going to be the best trip of our lives." Like they had a bunch of previous reference points on that. So, I had to ask myself, what would my friend Dave Balon tell me to do in this circumstance? The answer came back abundantly clear, and I sincerely believe this is only the first of many tests from above that we will all be getting from the old school teacher. As you have probably read, his life mantra centered around the 3 F's, as he referred to them. As part of my life teachings under the School of Dave, he spoke to me about this principle often. When in doubt, he said, make your decisions based on faith, family, and friends. His thoughts on faith were not necessarily about religion, and yet it could be, if that was what was important to you. He was not judgmental about what you put your faith in. That was your decision. The key was to find your path in life and to stay dedicated and have conviction in what you do. Have faith in who you want to be, and then commit yourself to it fully. And that is what he always did. Dave was born in the wee little town of Reno, Saskatchewan, just outside of Waka Lake. The local Cranberry School only went to grade 4, so in grade 5, at the ripe old age of 10, his parents sent him to Saskatoon to live with his older siblings, Mickey and Ed, to continue his schooling. Dave wasn't exactly loving this city living and this school situation in Saskatoon, and so despite his youth, nearly every weekend he would either hitchhike back or find the money to take the train back to Waka. A few things changed over the course of time that moved that perspective along the way. First, he began to understand that school and an education were going to be the basis for his ability to impact people in their lives. He was still very young, but he was starting to find his lifelong faith. Secondly, he met a group of 3 soon-to-be best buddies that he would hold dearly for an entire lifetime, no matter where they were or what they were doing. The friend pattern. And finally, and most importantly, he would meet the future key to the F in family. He met himself a hot young girl named Cherry Jones, and that was when high school really started to look up for him. Dave acted on his faith and his passion and wanted to make a difference to others, so he went to the University of Saskatchewan for 5 years to get a Bachelor of Arts and an education degree. This allowed him to begin his teaching career at Walter Murray High School. He taught high school health science and chemistry and quickly became an absolute favorite of his students. His teaching style and personality were the exact same as the man that I would meet 40 years later. Compassionate to a fault, fair but firm, and not to be trifled with. No hats in class or at the cottage dinner table, as I would learn. The clear difference he made was his genuine interest in every one of his students and their lives. Well beyond the course subject content, Dave was the source of counseling, wisdom, and direction for any and all of his students' life situations. He found his calling in life not just in making these kids good students, but making them into the best human beings as well. While he never looked for any credit due to his amazing humility, one of the greatest validations he got in his life was the incredible number of former students that would look him up later and just tell him how he had genuinely changed their lives. Dave's ability to motivate people through his exceptional listening and communication skills was not lost in the business world. Fellow Kinsman member Joe Lear knew that this talent would make him a great manager, and after multiple overtures, he was able to lure him away from teaching to run the King George Hotel, and then on to foresee the building and the opening of the new Sheraton Center Hotel in Regina. As Joe would tell him, it was all about providing good leadership and inspiring people to truly want to work for you because of how well you treat them. Despite having never managed a business in his career, Dave turned out to be a natural. After a very successful new hotel opening, Dave brought his now seasoned business talent back to Saskatoon and oversaw the management of a new manufacturing plant with Harding Industries. Not unlike his high school teaching accolades, so many of his staff would find him later in life and comment about their best boss ever in Dave Balon. His true calling in teaching was never far from his thoughts, and he found himself missing the world of making such a significant difference to young minds and to their futures. In 1988, he returned to the classroom at Bedford Road Collegiate and gave 16 more remarkable years to this, his chosen profession. While making such a difference to those immediately around him was his forte, he had the exact same vision and faith in making the world around him a better place. Dave's commitment to helping out and providing leadership with worthy organizations and charities was immense. With both his daughters involved in figure skating, he sat on the board of directors of the Saskatoon Figure Skating Club and became president of their board. Then he was on the board of the Saskatchewan Figure Skating Association, again becoming president. Even after Jody and Tracy left figure skating, and always wanting to see a job right to its end, he sat on the Canadian Figure Skating Board of Directors. In addition, Dave was a charter member of the Powell City Kinsman Club, where, as per his pattern, he became president of that club as well. Through his work with Kinsman, he was instrumental in creating the first ever Saskatchewan Telemiracle, which raised over $1 million in its inaugural year, and a charity event that carries on in Saskatchewan to this day. He helped to fundraise to get the Archibald Arena built and was on the committee for building both ACT Arena and what would eventually become SaskTel Centre. Further on, he helped create the long-standing Brit basketball tournament, and he developed the construction plan and the fundraising for both the Gordie Howe fastball field and Saskatoon minor football field. His passion for school sports saw him take on a lifelong commitment in minor football as a coach, a commissioner, and then a supervisor for over 35 years. Dave had a love for what Terry Fox stood for, and he participated in the Terry Fox run ever since 1983. Even after he couldn't physically do the run anymore, he kept raising money right through to the end. He has also assisted with the Heart and Stroke Foundation, Children's Hospital Foundation, Chocolate Cure, Jumpstart charity events, and the One Voice Project. And the list goes on and on. If there was a job that needed doing, or someone or something that needed help, Dave was faithfully all in. His commitment to causes and to the betterment of people migrated naturally into creating lifelong friendship patterns, and not the overused texting BFF abbreviation, but literally best friends forever. That first group of boys from high school that consisted of Ed Chenoweth, Gardy Bin Jameson, John Dole, and Dave Balon, they spent their entire lives being heavily involved with one another. Even in their final years, they would make the effort to come up to Dave's cabin at Emma and regale us all with their crazy stories of growing up together. Shocking as it was to me, it turns out my well-mannered, conservative, retired school teacher neighbor was a bit of a wild child back in the day. Dave met friends in every walk of life that he entered, whether it was teaching, business, playing sports, watching sports, kinsmen, neighbors, leading committees, or volunteering. He just had this way about him that made people want to be part of his world and to never let go. He had such a cool and inviting personality that potential boyfriends of Jody and Tracy would come over to the house to pick up the girls and end up spending the entire night playing Kaiser with Dave. He invested real time into his cherished friends with thoughtful questions, sincere listening, and good advice, and he would always be by their side, especially in difficult times. Joe Lear, Ed Nazarenko, Billy Ellis, Ray Perry, Terry Sylvester, the Laws, the Hardings, the Heplers, too many great friends to even begin to consider. When Dave had his first heart attack, way back in 1983, local radio host Denny Carr went on the air and suggested to the people of Saskatoon that one of their very best citizens was having health problems. Well, that same day, the hospital parking lot was full of cars and it was standing room only all the way down to the nurses' stations on Dave's hospital floor. Absolutely beloved and honored by every person that was so fortunate as to be called his friend, a title that I personally cherish. It's one of the dearest things that I will hold true in my life. So, how might someone so focused on making such a difference, spending so much time changing people's lives, and being the best friend to so many, have the ability to put family first? My answer, I have no idea, but I will tell you unequivocally, he did just that. His very best friend was, and always will be, his beloved wife, Cherry. In 1964, they walked down the aisle together, and that is how it has been ever since. Despite his drive and the busyness of his world, they lived a life in amazing harmony together. Cherry supported Dave in each and every one of his life initiatives, and he afforded her the ability to be a full-time wife and mom, a role in which she cherished. Even after almost 60 years of marriage, Dave still held her on an absolute pedestal. In recent years, the romantic dinners got traded in for a shared passion. Now, watching Fox News and lamenting the state of U.S. politics. But, as always, it was the perfect bond that they shared together. Dave loved her to pieces and always knew that she was his perfect match. The couple had their first daughter with Jody in 1966, and then Tracy followed in 1969. And Dave was once again all in, this time in his new role as a dad. The girls cherished their time with their father, and the absolute favorite early memory was their birthday, where starting from age 4 on, he would take the entire day off and spend it doing whatever it is that they wished to do. Dave and Cherry bought their forever home on Tucker Crescent in 1968, and then the Emma Lake cabin in 1973. Both of these homes would become staples in the fabric of their girls' upbringing, and both would become the warmest and most inviting places to bring their friends, their boyfriends, and later still, their own families. Every social and life event started and ended at one of the 2 Balon homes. And no matter how late they arrived or how many people they brought home, Dave would dutifully get up and take on the role of the perfect host, most often until the very last one of them went to bed. Dave's ability to juggle all of his other life priorities and yet still be there for absolutely every important event in the girls' lives is almost incomprehensible. Every figure skating practice and performance, no matter where or what time. Dave would take time off work to pick them up during school lunches, to take them to and return them from their practices. He supported them with his time, his constant encouragement, and often the required funding, as was the case when they spent 4 straight summers living in Ontario doing summer skate programs. While they weren't incredibly wealthy, there was never a question of what programs they could participate in at any level. As long as it made them happy, then their dad just somehow would make it happen. When the grandkids arrived, first with Brent, and then Parker, Brooklyn, and Jackson, the now Papa Dave put his level of family involvement into overdrive. He played mini sticks, he taught them how to fish, he pulled them on the tubes at the lake, he went golfing with them, and he talked endlessly with them about life and good values around the fire. And then the sports came. All 4 very sports-minded kids, and that was just a perfect fit for Papa Dave. He would spend the next 20 years on the road, in the rink, on the course, in the gym, driving them or following them to every sporting event that the grandkids could conjure up. And you have to imagine this. 3 of 4 of his grandchildren live in Alberta. While watching him in hockey was his first love, he also didn't ever miss a dance recital. Not his favorite event, as Brooklyn would describe, but it didn't matter. He watched them all. Badminton, golf, wrestling, volleyball, and any sport they possibly picked up. Papa Dave was always there. When I asked Jackson how many of his hockey games he thought his papa had watched him play through his entire time in the sport, he looked sort of quizzical at me. And then he just said, well, all of them. Can you imagine? Every practice, every tryout, every warm-up, every tournament, and every game. And then after every game, he was there in the hallway or on the phone to discuss how things went and to see how they were feeling. As they played less sports and moved into their post-secondary educations, he changed the narrative and spent more time talking about exam stress, study habits, and careers. And he even tutored Brooklyn in university-level organic chemistry. Always with good questions, always soft advice, and always with the same mantra of doing whatever you want that will allow you to find happiness. In perfect keeping with a life dedicated to his family and his love of sports, Dave was doing what he loved most at the time of his passing. He was traveling to watch his grandson Parker play hockey. And oh God, he was just so excited for the trip. Even in his very final words with Brett, he was looking for a rundown on that night's hockey game. And he was really pleased to hear that PK was going to be on the first line power play. But he was frustrated to hear that his good buddy Logan was a healthy scratch, and as such, He blamed the coach. Classic Papa Dave, right up to the end. Dave felt that the life he lived was the best ever, and he recently commented to us that if he could do it all over again, he wouldn't change a single thing. A life so well lived deserved a legacy, and the way that we can honor the legacy of Dave Balon is to live our lives under the same principles that he did. Put all of your faith in what you believe, be true, honest, and kind to your friends, and by all means, make sure that you take care of and love your family to the very fullest extent. Oh, and it should also involve a hard stop at 4 o'clock to make sure that you can have a little wine to carry you through the day. And just know that when we do all of this, that our wonderful friend will be up there toasting us with his glass of red wine, with that big wonderful smile that comes straight from his heart, knowing that the difference he made was a lasting one and that it made us all better people. So, to a life so well lived, Mr. Balon, Dave, Papa Dave, and Dad, we all love you immensely. We will miss you so dearly, and we will never forget everything that you taught us. Cheers to you, our friend.
Next, I'd like to invite Jeff Balon to come. Jeff, please come and share with us your thoughts, your reflection on David's life.
Well, what an act to follow. Excuse me, maybe I'll get my water just in case. So I hope to share with you some perspective from the family, but first I want to thank everybody who has come here to celebrate Dave and those who couldn't. Many people wanted to be here, and for Air Canada reasons or WestJet reasons or other reasons, they were unable to do it. Some in my own family. So I want to give you a bit of a perspective of what Dave DePlatte referred to about the family. Was it really true that he could hold it all together, do everything that Dave said outside of the family, and yet still be true to his whole family? And the truth was yes. So on behalf of Sherry and Jody and Tracy and their families, we really, again, want to thank you for being here to share this time with a very hard time. So Dave was born in Reno, as Dave DePlatte referred to, in a blended family in 1940. His dad had come over from the Ukraine at 15 years of age and had worked at a lumber camp as a cook for a few years, and then came out to Saskatchewan to develop a homestead. He had to clear 7 to 10 acres by axe in his first year or two to hang on to the land. So obviously had a tough work ethic. And you wonder, gee, where did Dave get all the... Because it wasn't time for the warm and fuzzies back then. It was hard work. It was a tough life. Blended family, I mean, his sister Ann and my dad Peter and his brother Johnny were born of the first mother, who was married to Wazel, Helen. Their mom was, Nastasia, their mom died in childbirth. And so subsequent to that, her sister joined the family and ended up becoming his second wife, from which we had Mickey, Eddie, Dave, and then Roman and Jenny, who unfortunately died in a young age as a child. So again, a very tough family life. Life was hard, but family was strong. And Dave loved his family. Everybody was, from his perspective, was the same. They were all from the same family, and he truly loved that. Wherever the brothers and sisters, or whenever they'd get together, it was absolutely incredible. It was almost magical. I can remember we just sit there and there'd be end-to-end laughing and telling stories and just kibitzing and making fun of each other. And, yeah, having a few drinks too, but it was truly magical. Dave was very close to all of his siblings and especially close to Mickey, his sister. He had a very special relationship with her. She lived in Winnipeg. He would travel there any time of the year to see her. And apparently his young nieces at the time, they shared with me, all three of them had a crush on him. And it got a little destroyed when they met Sherry and found out that he already was married, so they weren't able to marry him. But Sherry, as Dave DePlatte said, was Dave's love of the life. Mickey became unwell and had dementia for probably 15 to 20 years in the last years of her life. However, Dave would still travel there. And as soon as he would get there, he would just go straight to her. And on her 90th birthday, I'd like to read a note that Dave sent to her. I hope I can get through it. Happy birthday to my amazing Mickey. I can't think of anything more special than having you as my sister in my life. Even though there is 10 years age difference, we couldn't have been any closer, and for that I'm thankful. Your care and attention to me as your younger brother helped shape me into the man I am today. Thank you for all the wonderful memories you've given me over the years. I look back and realize I wouldn't have changed a thing. One of the most admirable qualities is how you handle life's ups and downs through over your 90 years on this earth. You're one of the strongest, loving, caring people I know. I've looked up to you as long as I can remember. Having a sister like you is an amazing gift, and I thank God for that every day. I still wish to be there today to celebrate your special day in person, but know I'm with you always. You're the gift that keeps on giving to all of us who love you. Have a fabulous birthday, my dear sister. Who writes that to their sister? How many of you have shared those thoughts with your sister? Incredible. Dave also had a great relationship with all of his, all the spouses of his family, Isabel, Leona, Vicky, and even Mickey's ex-husband, Dallas. My mother Isabel visited Sherry and Dave in Hawaii, which is something that he loved to do for the longest time. She remarked that no matter where they went, everywhere, everyone seemed to know Dave. Everyone said, "Hey, Dave, what are you doing?" And he knew their name, he knew what they were doing, he knew what they're about. He knew them. It wasn't just a casual, I remember the name. He was an engaged and invested listener. He knew what was happening in their lives. Okay, let me just see here. I'm old school, right? I will be a little bit of multimedia because I did read that one picture that I did have, right? So very interested in baby boomer, though. He was very interested in all the kids' sports and education. Again, Dave referred to that. He'd go to and follow as many of the extended families and kids as he could. So it wasn't just his immediate family. It was the extended family. He followed my daughter's hockey when she was in Maine, and she's in Wisconsin now, so he'd virtually watch her games. And I knew the same thing with some of the other family members. He followed everybody. He knew what was going on in your life. He would go to, he would watch many, many different things. His last trip, as you know, was on his way to see Parker's senior game for Michigan Tech. He was so incredibly proud of Parker, and he made him feel special. But he was equally impressed with what each and every one was doing, what Brooklyn was doing, what Brent was doing, what Jackson was doing. And it wasn't just superficial. It was totally on board. He died with his daughters and his wife by his side. So you'd say, gee, well, it wasn't a bad being away from home, but he had his most cherished people beside him when he died, on his way to his grandson's sport, which he loved doing. I think that he was a little bit tired and weary, and he wanted to go up and watch it in heaven with his brothers and sisters that he loved so much. So best seat in the house, having a drink with them, ensuring the success of his grandchildren. So wherever the brothers and sisters would get together, they had that giggle, and they would reminisce about stories in the farm. He was very close to all of his siblings and had a... Oh, excuse me, I think I already did that. Sorry. Trouble with... anyways. So he truly cared about people. And when he did that, you don't realize the impact that it has on people's lives. So I just want to read to you. This is a Facebook comment that came in today from one of his former students. So he loved his family, he loved his friends, he was engaged, but engaged as a teacher as well. He said, Kendra, one of his former pupils, I'm so saddened to hear this. Mr. Balon was not only a great teacher, he's an amazing human being. You were an inspiration, you always encouraged me. Even though we both knew chemistry was not my thing, I feel truly blessed to have known you, to have been taught by you, and to ultimately being seen by you. You were the epitome of a great teacher. Thank you for being the one I needed. So she felt needed, she felt special, just as he made all of us feel special. Dave had some health challenges over the years, yet he seemed to rebound from each one. I think because God still had a plan for him. We would talk often. Dave and I, every couple of weeks, he'd talk. But it wasn't just me. He did it to all of us. He would phone us. He would keep in touch with us. He made us feel we're special. To my brother and my sister and I felt like he was our surrogate dad because he had been in touch with us on an ongoing basis. Funny story about Dave and my dad. So they were 14 years apart. Dave was only 10 years old when my dad left and moved to Ottawa. So you think, gee, how good could he have got to know his brother? And he took some time and effort when he came out on the figure skating board meetings to Ottawa, and we got to meet Dave and got to know him a bit. But then he had a meeting in Newfoundland, and my dad had a meeting in Newfoundland. And they both decided they'd spend a little bit of extra time together because they really didn't know each other. Again, they'd left when my dad was older, 14 years older. Dave was 10 years old. So they went there and they had their meetings, and then they toured about Newfoundland, and they just had a blast. They saw everything, they did everything you could there. And so the last night that they're there, Dave related this to us, that they were sitting on the bench, or on the beds in the hotel room, both sitting in their underwear having a drink. Almost touching knee to knee, you know, they weren't high-end hotel rooms. Touching knee to knee and having the drink. And my dad just looked at him and said, Dave, you're my brother. And Dave said the same thing back. They had that bond. From that moment on, he spoke to my dad every week or two for the rest of his life, which is another 20 or so years. And that was going from not really knowing each other, but they had a special relationship. Dave did often say, when he's going through the challenges, because he and I talked, I'm a physician, we talked about health problems and challenges. We also talked about the silly politics in Ottawa. Somehow it was my fault. Just saying that. But he said, I had a good life, Jeff. I have no regrets. If God should take me tomorrow, I have no regrets. So 2016 was the last time our family got together in a big reunion. That was at Lake Manitoba, or is it Lake Winnipeg? Lake Manitoba? Manitoba. I always get those two mistaken. Kind of in the middle of Canada. Who really cares, right? I'm just joking. Yeah. So is it Jackie and Lloyd, Kim and Dale, and Joanne and Bob's cottages in Lake Manitoba? Now, I like to go to family reunions. I like to have name tags, right? Like, I can't remember names. Dave knew every kid, every grandkid, knew what they're doing, what school they're going to. He knew everything about them. And oh my gosh, it leaves you in awe. It just, you're like, who does that? How do you figure that out? Like with me, patients, they've got a file. I know them if I've got the file. Otherwise, forget it. But he gave a speech, and I was going to play it, but there's a lot of personal stuff there. It's about a 9-minute speech reinforcing how the family started and the 3 Fs. That was his mantra. He drilled it in our head as well. Family, friends, and faith. And he passed the torch on to us. He said it's now up to the new generation. It's up to us to keep in touch. We're probably not going to do as good a job, but we have to keep in touch with each other. We have to emphasize the 3S with each other and in our own families for it to carry on. We have to love easily and forgive easily. Over this time through COVID, and I don't know about you, but through seeing it through the eyes of my patients, it's been an incredibly challenging time for many, many families. We've grown distant. We haven't really kept in touch as well as we could. And I think Dave's story, not just to us as a family, but to you as his extended family. The 3 F's, they're important. Make your family important. Make time for them. Be in touch with them. Forgive them easily. We all screw up. And laugh and enjoy each other. Be interested in each other. Remember, life is short. Make each day count. We have big shoes to fill. Dave was not perfect. Just ask Sherry. Yeah, or my wife, or whichever wife, right? But Dave was a good man, and he was a rich man. Not materially rich, but rich in the things that are important in life. And at the end of the day, he had a good life. He cherished his wife. He cherished his family. And what held it all together for him was his deep faith, as Dave DePlatte talked about. And in Dave's words, they wrote for Mickey in the letter that he wrote. Just know I'm with you always. We miss you, Dave.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for that wonderful tribute to Dave's life. I want to invite you to sit back. We're going to view some photographs, pictures from Dave's life. As you view these pictures, hold on to those memories. Hold on to those connections that you have of a wonderful, a beautiful life. Let's do this together in memory and in honor of David Balon.
Daddy, I'm afraid. Won't you stay a little while? Keep me safe, 'cause there's monsters right outside. Daddy, please don't go. I don't want to be alone, 'cause the second that you're gone, they're gonna know. Before he went to bed, he grabbed my hand and said, just 'cause I'm leaving, it don't mean it. I won't be right by your side. When you need me, you can't see me in the middle of the night. Just close your eyes and say a prayer. It's okay, I know you're scared when I'm not here, but I'll always be right there. Even though I'm leaving, I ain't going.
It was sort of ironic. In my test and measurements class, prior to receiving the news about my grandpa, we were talking about the gold standard of testing. And then my professor kind of flipped the question and asked us, who's our gold standard in life? Who do you look up to the most? I kind of chuckled at my professor Dan and said, well, that's an easy question. It's my grandpa. His follow-up question obviously was why. I didn't even know where to start. There's just so many reasons. First, he's one of the strongest, hardworking person I know. He was so dedicated, caring, loving, and supportive. He supported me in everything I did, while also keeping me fairly humble. During our FaceTimes, after I gloated about something about myself, he often asked me the question, when is your book coming out? The first time he asked me this, I was quite confused. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you know, your book, Why I Love Myself by Brooklyn Soretsky. And we both laughed so hard our stomachs were hurting. The laughing until our stomachs hurt or until we cried was a frequent occurrence when you were around my papa. My brother Brant told me a story recently about his first time tasting alcohol with my grandpa. In the middle of summer, Papa grabbed his homemade moonshine he had in a 7-Up bottle. Brant, being 12, asked Papa, was it 7-Up? he said with a chuckle, no, it was his homemade hooch. And Brant was confused and had no idea what hooch was. Papa proceeded to pour everyone at the table a shot, and Brant, being curious, asked, did it taste like 7-Up? Papa, so after getting approval from my dad, poured Brant half a shot. Brant's system was shocked after taking it. He was coughing and his nose was on fire. He said smoke was coming out of his ears. But Papa patted him on the back and said, that'll put some hair on your chest. And everyone started laughing so hard there were tears coming from his eyes. Laughing, our family was everything to him. He always put us above everything. No matter what you needed, he was always there to help you. He loved his family so much. He even came to my dance competitions, never missed a single recital. We all know sparkles and glitter are not his thing. But since it was his little dolly's thing, he made it his thing. He always was there when you needed him. Even if I was down or going through a rough patch in life, my grandpa always made sure to phone me and tell me to keep my head high and things will work out the way they were supposed to. When I broke my arm, I was quite devastated, but my grandpa made sure to call me lots and tell me to trust the process and, most importantly, to have faith. Amongst those hard times, he always made sure to crack a joke, make me laugh. I remember him saying to me, well, at least he didn't break both arms or that pretty face of yours. He always knew the right things to say at the right time. If you knew my papa, you knew he always had something to say and always made an effort to include everyone and befriend everyone. Whether that be Harry on the beach and stopping by every single cabin along the way, and quite often a beer, or chatting with my friends on the lake just about life, anything and everything. He made my friends feel so welcome at our cabin. He loved them like they were his own grandkids. My friends would frequently ask me how Papa Dave is doing, and before bringing them up to the cabin, they would ask and make sure they were going to have a chance to see him and have a good convo. He made such a positive impact on so many lives. He was loved and loved by so many. I'm going to miss our almost daily phone calls where we talked about everything and literally anything, from giving him a full camera's weather report to him tutoring me. It amazed me how much he knew and how much I did not, and he made sure that I knew that. After giving him my life updates, he would give me a life update on literally everybody's else's life. It was crazy how much the guy knew. So it looks like I'm going to have to talk to more people to get those updates. But I can't thank him enough for everything he's done for me throughout my whole life, and I will forever and always be his little dolly.
Papa Dave, I learned so much from this guy. All our grandchildren did. Learned to love, learned to be patient, tons of wisdom, and most of all, how to get free food at restaurants. I have 3 quick stories I kind of like to just touch on. The first one, after talking to some great friends of mine, they all love Papa Dave. They love talking to him. They love hearing his opinion, even if you didn't want to hear it. You remind me of 2017 graduation. There was a picture of it. We were playing a game called Beer Darts, and Papa was very curious to what it was, and 2 minutes later, he had his can on the ground, and he got hit, and next thing you know, he was shotgunning a beer in front of all of us. Another one was when I was a little younger. Mom and Dad worked often. Papa took me to a lot of hockey tournaments growing up as a kid. I remember in Calgary, we just kind of figured out I was having to have stomach troubles. Obviously lactose intolerance, and I had some pizza, and everyone knows what happens after that. And I remember going to the hotel, and eventually his patience ran down, and he just said, "You smell like manure. Go sit in the hallway." You can only imagine how bad it was if Papa was the one kicking me out. That trip, I specifically remember the drive back. I remember him telling me about all the crops, what we ate them, and what they were, and just all that stuff. The last story I kind of got is the recent trip with Arizona. We did a lot of fun things. Top Golf, toured the dressing room, even though I wasn't there for that part of it. Giving him the championship hat, and just him finally being able to see me play a college game. the moment that sticks out to me the most is, I remember after we won the tournament, we had to walk to our dressing room outside, and there was a little see-through glass to keep kind of the public out when the NHL teams were there. And I remember walking through and seeing this old guy in gray hair take 5 hard strides and swings his cane and against the plastic thing and just starts howling with joy. I didn't notice it was him until he just gave me a fist pump and kept doing that stuff. So that was awesome. Just want to thank you, Papa, for treating Grandma Cherry like a queen, always treating her with respect. Learned a lot in that department with women. Thank you for raising 2 amazing daughters, Mom and Auntie Jody. For our grandkids, we're lucky to have shared life with you, and we miss everything about you. Papa, you're my biggest fan, my biggest supporter, and I really wish I could have had one more weekend with you. Love you so much, Papa Dave. God bless your soul. Thank you for everything.
Our time with Papa Dave has come and gone. It's hard to think he's not just a phone call away anymore. Something I think a lot of us could relate to in this room. As for me, I got to spend 20 years being loved, supported, and taught by Papa. Today, I don't have too much more to say other than thank you. Papa, thank you for giving our family a heaven on earth at Emma Lake. Thank you for the countless golf rounds, hours spent on the boats fishing together, all of the spots so you could come watch us kids ski, wakeboard, wake surf. Papa, thank you for being in the stands, cheering us on and supporting us. It truly didn't matter when or where, he was always there. Thank you for always being by us during our ups and downs and always having the right advice to tell us in those times. Thank you for the laughs, the wisdom, the memories, and the hugs. Those will be cherished forever. Thank you for always prioritizing family, faith, and friends. And lastly, thank you for being you. There's truly no one like you. You gave every one of us your time and a piece of your warm heart, no matter the circumstance. As for today, I know you're resting easy and you're back doing the things you most loved. And today is not a goodbye, it's a see you later. I love you.
Thank you for that beautiful tribute to your grandfather. Thank you for that. I had the opportunity to sit down with the family, with Jody and Tracy and Cherry, to talk about David's life. And we talked, of course, about his work. We talked about how sports was just a huge part of his life, how his community work with the Terry Fox Foundation, Heart and Stroke, Cancer Center, Kinsman, it just keeps going on and on. But we also talked about how at the core of his life, Dave was a humble person and wanted to pass on that humility not only to his daughters, but to his grandkids as well. We talked about the cottage, 50 years at Emma Lake, a place that was more than a second home to him, a place with family and so many friends and fishing and golf and the best times of his life. And of course, we talked about Cherry. We talked about 58 years together. She was quick to tell me that they dated for 5 years before that. So really that number should be 63. That's not a number you hear very often when it comes to marriage, is it? That's a number that represents a deep well of affection. That's a number that represents a willingness to give and to take, to move forward, putting the family first. Such an important conversation. Cherry told me how they met in high school and how they started dating at a New Year's Eve dance that involved her ending up in a snowbank. You might want to ask her about that question. If you were a friend of Dave Balon, know that he cared for you. If you were his family, know that he loved you. To Tracy, to Jody, your father loved you from the bottom of his heart. And to Cherry, Dave loved you with everything he had. With everything he had. Hear these words of blessing. Bless the soul of our departed loved one, David Balon. Surround your child who died in faith with your love, with your mercy, with your saving protection, until our departed brother, David, is safely restored to you in eternal life, where death will be no more. Grant this through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen. And so today we say goodbye, and we remember David Balon, the man that he was, the years that we shared with him, the laughter that we had together, the good that we saw in him, and the love that we received from him. And so now, with as much strength and courage as we can muster, we leave David in God's care. And we turn toward each other. And we remember. And we remember. I want to thank you for coming today to this celebration of David's life. In just a moment, we will be dismissed through these doors to the reception area. As you're in the reception area, there won't be an official receiving line, but at some point, when you notice that the family is free, I want you to surround them and let them know how much you care for them and how much you cared for David. Okay? Okay. Please stand as I pray the Lord's Prayer. I invite you to pray it with me. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those that trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Please remain standing. Hear these final words of peace. Peace be on David's friends. Peace be on David's family. Peace be on David. Peace, peace, peace. Please remain standing.
And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear, I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full. I traveled each and every highway and more, much more than this. I did it my way. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do, and saw it through without exemption. I planned each charted course, each careful step along the byway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when I bit off more than I could chew. But through it all, when there was doubt, I ate it up and spit it out. I faced it all, and I stood tall and did it my way. I've loved, I've laughed and cried, I've had my fill, my share of losing, and now, as tears subside, I find it all so amusing to think I did all that, and may I say, not in a shy way, oh no, not me. I did it my way. For what is a man? What has he got? If not himself, then he has not to say the things he truly feels, and not the words of one who kneels. The record shows I took the blows and did it my Yes, it was my